Country album covers. That's what we're going to be talking about today, and I know what you're already thinking. The best, most legendary country album cover of all time, clearly, Bigger by Sugarland. I mean, that circus tent background, a 6-letter word divided for no reason across 2 lines. What could be better than that, except maybe like Luke Combs's beautiful portrait on What You See Is What You Get, or maybe the minimal style of Danny Shay's self-titled. Or hey, maybe it is the myriad of guys standing in front of gray backgrounds like they're taking a senior portrait, from Blake Shelton to Kane Brown to Luke Bryan, even Alan Jackson. Look, as country fans, we gotta be honest with ourselves, our genre does not have the best reputation when it comes to beautiful, creative album covers, but there's a lot that are legendary. I mean, I think Hello, I'm Dolly, that simple portrait of Dolly Parton, Hank Williams Jr.'s Family Tradition, Kenny Rogers with The Gambler, Dwight Yoakam's This Time, all of those are legendary, iconic images and perfect album covers. And anyway, the subject of what makes something a good album cover is entirely subjective, and music YouTubers have posted many videos about it, most prolifically Nathan Zed with his video from last year, The Power of Album Covers, that is the direct inspiration for this video.
But really, album artwork can enhance your listening experience.
So in today's video, I'm gonna go over some of my favorite and least favorite album covers, but I also asked you guys to weigh in on a recent video and you loaded up the comments with your recommendations, so we'll go through those too. But before we get into it, let me thank our sponsor for this video. Yeah, we have a sponsor, Surfshark. Surfshark is an app and browser extension that allows you to be anywhere in the world by changing your virtual location, thus allowing you to unlock content libraries and bypass geo restrictions when browsing. I get messages all the time from country fans that don't live in America, and yes, there are a lot of you, and you are wishing you could see a music video or an award show clip that for whatever reason is blocked in your country, and Surfshark allows you to do so. You simply change your location to the US and watch at your leisure. Plus, Surfshark encrypts your data when you're online, ensuring that your passwords and personal information stay out of the hands of hackers or that weird lurker across the way at the coffee shop. I know Brad Paisley says he's so much cooler online, but I'd wager that's only true when your data is safe, and Surfshark's VPN ensures the highest level of security. If you use the code Grady, you can get 83% off your purchase of Surfshark, plus an extra 3 months for free, and there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk to try it out. Be sure to click the link in the description down below to get started. So what makes something a good album cover? You know, I think there's a couple different answers to that question. On the one hand, the artist side of me thinks it should be an image that somehow evokes the spirit of the album and kind of prepares you for the upcoming listen. The business side of me would say, no, it just needs to be a high conversion image. Whatever is most likely to be clicked on or picked up, that should be your cover. And I think in a lot of cases, that's just a portrait. You know, I used to work in the magazine world, and even though the editorial side of the magazine prided itself on having interesting imagery on the cover, oftentimes, reader surveys would show that a simple portrait on a white background of a smiling face is what people felt most likely to buy. And so in that way, I understand why there are so many boring covers of a light background, someone standing with the camera at about chest height, and I don't think every picture needs to be something lazy or boring. Sometimes when I'm searching for a new artist, I really like when album covers just have a picture of the artist there. Sometimes I think they do a great job of evoking the spirit of the album too. At its best, I like when those things merge. Lately, I think Brian Kelly's Wave Pack is a great example of a simple photo that also evokes the spirit of that album. Like one of the songs in the album, Beach Cowboy, you get this kind of tropical essence and a little bit of a Western essence from one image. I think Miranda Lambert is another artist that does portraits very well. There's just enough detail in these images, little things in the background, stuff about her facial expression that communicate more than just simply, I am Miranda Lambert. She looks a little unhinged on the cover of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. She's stepping out of a Platinum Airstream trailer on Platinum. Compare that to the cover of something like Brett Young's Weekends Look a Little Different These Days, where this random photo with text laid over it doesn't seem to have to do with anything. I'd say, at least on his last album, Ticket to LA, you get some cool color that actually feels a little bit like a Californian landscape. And that's a good segue into another part that I think is important for portraits and just album covers in general, and that's color. Sometimes a punch of color is exactly what an album era needs. I think of Kelsey Ballerini's album, Kelsey, where she's laying in the grass, and not only do you have a cool different photo of her, you've got this unique shade of green that I don't see on almost any other album cover, and to me that makes it memorable. I'd say the same thing about Kane Brown's Experiment. Just having this blue background and that red jacket makes this album stand out so much more to me than his debut, Kane Brown. Sometimes black and white is the cool move to do, and I think it communicates a seriousness about an album. I love the cover of Chris Stapleton's Traveler, as well as Carly Pearce's 29. That feels like such a classic cover to me. But I think I'm always gonna prefer color, and in fact, when I started thinking of album covers for this video, the very first one that came to mind was Kip Moore's Wild Ones. I love everything about that cover. I love the painted image of Kip Moore. I love the crazy font that goes across him. Everything about this cover draws me in. It feels exciting, and for one of these covers that's just a portrait, this one really stands out. I'd say the same thing about Hardy's A Rock. That cover stands out to me so much. The high contrast of the black and the aqua. You only see half of his face, but you do get to see his face. It kind of helps you recognize him early in his career. Neither of those covers are really telling a story, but they're just really visually exciting. Similarly, I really liked the sort of stained glass image of Luke Combs on his debut. However, I really did not think that the painting was detailed enough on his second album, especially when surrounded with that kind of juvenile font. I would say another example that tells a little bit more of a story that I like is Aaron Watson's The Underdog. That close-up on his face with the makeup and the cowboy imagery, you know, it really brought me in and kind of got me curious about listening to Aaron Watson. I like a lot of Aaron Watson's covers. I think there's something very exciting looking about them, except for my favorite Aaron Watson album, Red Bandana, and I know that that one does have a connection to the story of the album, but I don't think this red square is the most visually appealing.
Break my heart, come on and light.
The other kind of portraits I really like is this sort of mini trend of the vintage vinyl style of these rounded corner frames that might have the title and the artist and the track list. I thought that on the Joshua Headley album with that gorgeous shade of green, Gabe Lee's Honky Tonk Hell, Yola's album had that style, Coulter Wall's Songs of the Plains. I just like all the fonts and the contrast that you get on a cover like that. To me, it makes it feel really luxe and like an exciting thing to check out. And maybe that's just my YouTuber brain. I like things that are high contrast, colorful, just because I know in terms of click-through rate on a video, that stuff does a lot better. I think for photographers and graphic designers, they might like more nuanced, subtle imagery, but I kind of like albums that are a bit of a billboard that I want to click on. Sometimes there's no artist on the cover, it's just album art. I think that's a lot more prevalent in the pop and rap worlds, but you see a lot of country albums that just bring in art as well. Recently, I loved Midland's cover of the Sonic Ranch. I thought that was a really beautiful painting, visually interesting, also told the story of these three guys recording together down in Texas. Flatland Cavalry has amazing album covers. Homeland Insecurity and this new one they just announced, Welcome to Countryland, is literally bussin'. Generally, I think albums that just have words as their art are pretty forgettable, if not bad. You know, I already mentioned Sugarland's Bigger, one of my least favorite album covers ever. It really almost like dissuaded me from listening to it. I think kind of similarly about Justin Moore's new one, Straight Outta the Country. Stuff like the Greatest Hits album from the Zac Brown Band, it just feels really forgettable to me. But then there's this kind of subset of only text covers, which is super minimal text covers, like the Dan and Shay self-titled record, and Whiskey Myers, which is just barely there if you can see their name in the middle. And then, kind of most controversially, for this video at least, Chris Stapleton's Starting Over. It feels like people are pretty evenly split on this, whether or not this is the perfect cover for this album because it's about starting over, and here you have truly a blank slate, this blank vinyl sleeve. Or if for an album that has so much passion in every line, this is disappointingly boring, and they want a cool image of Chris Stapleton that they can put on their wall. I asked on Instagram, and I think it was 59% of people said they liked the cover, 41% said they didn't like it. I would definitely be in the didn't like it camp. But that's enough of my taste. Let's look at what some of you guys said were the best and worst country album covers. Okay, switched up the angle a little bit. First, let's look at some general takes you guys had. Aaron says, the biggest issue I have with country album covers is that they're some of the most generic out of any genre. Take Jason Aldean's album covers, for example. They're basically indistinguishable. I wonder if you could tell you which one is which with the title and text removed. That would be a hilarious challenge. Riley and Aaron had similar things to say. I'll just kind of flash these up on the screen. Hamish echoed that sentiment and said, any Nashville record with a boring photo of the artist and a basic ass logo and shitty word font I just can't stand. Midland do a good job with their covers. They really bring the aesthetic. Yeah, that's true. I didn't even talk about their portraits, but they do have some cool photos of themselves too. I really also like how Let It Roll had that like glittery pink border. You know, they committed. There were about 1 million about Eric Church's new album covers. Bonaldi said, the Eric Church album covers look like ads for vape juice. I guess with all the colorful clouds. Jason said, is anyone else bothered by the straight line at the bottom of Eric's album picture that doesn't blend into the cloud like the other 3 sides? Striker Revolution says, they give Eric Church this weird, saggy neck, double chin look. That's kind of what I thought. I was like, man, you look so badass, but I don't know that profile without your sunglasses is the look for you. Erin says she likes when artists have a consistent theme or style to their album covers, and Eric Church is someone that doesn't, and it makes her mad. I don't fully agree with that. I kind of like when they switch it up. I guess someone like Run the Jewels always does a variation on the same cover, but it doesn't bother me. I kind of like when artists want to go for something totally new. Dance Brittany23 says there's so many album covers to choose from. My favorites are Brad Paisley's Mud on the Tires and Shania Twain's The Woman in Me. Yeah, in the Shania case, it's just a pretty and iconic portrait. Mud on the Tires, it's one of those that I was kind of talking about like with Miranda Lambert, where it's going the extra mile to make a statement. He's in the white suit, all covered in mud. You got mud around the edges. It's a little cheesy, but so is Brad Paisley. I like it too. There's generally a lot of distaste for Luke Combs' album covers. There's generally mixed opinions on Starting Over. Someone like Real Country Music says the Traveler album cover is iconic. Then there's the rest of Stapleton's album covers. Gino was not a fan of it. He was also not a fan of Justin Moore's, but he does shout out Skeletons by those brothers Osborne, and that's another good example of album art. Oh, here's an interesting one about art. On the album art discussion, my 2 favorites are Cody Jinks' The Wanting and Midland's On the Rocks. Cody Jinks does have super cool, different paintings as his album covers. And I remember trying to figure out if that stick in the fire on his last one was a middle finger, and I think it just turned out to be a stick. There's a lot of love for Sturgill's album covers. Sailor's Guide to Earth, I'd say, is the one that kind of stands out the most. I mean, some people did really elaborate comments, like they gave me their whole top 5. I gotta say, Cyrus Waugh, you know, I looked at his album art tier list, and this God tier of Starting Over, Whiskey Myers, and Danning Shay, I think you're just trolling. You know, I know you are a troll, Cyrus, and he's got a great YouTube channel if you've never checked it out. Ronald, Alora, and Clive all mentioned Dwight Yoakam's This Time, which I also mentioned in the intro. Alora also mentions Fun by Garth Brooks. I like that. Which, man, the great forgotten Garth Brooks album, at long last, it finally came out on Amazon, and then no one talked about it, and it was like, man, we waited 3 years for this. Gosh, can he get someone on his team to just be like, Garth, some of this imagery is a little cheesy. Mandy said, I love Golden Hour and the fact that her sister shot it, and she also shouts out Dolly Parton's Jolene album, and a bunch of people echo the love of Casey's Golden Hour cover, which I would say has color. It's a pretty portrait. It has kind of that sun flare effect that much of the album has, and so you've got the story of the album in there too. It's got all the things that I said at the beginning I feel like make a good album cover. I liked this from Eliza. One of my least favorite album covers, William Michael Morgan, I Met a Girl, just uncomfortable. And I guess if you look at this photo long enough, yeah, maybe it is a little uncomfortable. And there are truly so many others that I had pulled, but it's just too much to get into. I really wanted to just kind of open up the discussion, say some of my thoughts, and hear some more of your thoughts down below. But thank you guys so much for weighing in and let me know what you like. Let me know if there's any of these that you really love, any you really disagree with. Like this video if you liked it, and we'll be back with more stuff soon. This was just a random one I wanted to make, so see y'all.